Music can express what words often cannot, especially when there aren't any words to say. Ein milim, there are no words, became a popular refrain in Israel in the days and weeks after October 7th. In the face of that indescribable devastation, Ein milim. Ein milim, as we just heard, is also the title of the beautiful and emotionally stirring piece that Cantor and Sela just led us in. Written by Cantor Jennifer Duretz-Peled, she released this song just a month ago. It was closely connected to the Israeli and Jewish experience following October 7th and responded to it through musical and prayerful expression. In addition to the piece Ein milim being directly born out of this experience that most of us are connected to by very few, if any, degrees of separation, there are two more elements of this song that tie it so closely to that which we have all been feeling for the past 18 weeks. First, this song turns to God in the helplessness we have felt at one point or another as onlookers who care deeply about what is going on in Israel and in Gaza. Bring them home, I pray. Blessed is God who frees the captive. Even the expression of hope at the end that the captives will return is interconnected with the prayer that God releases them. And second, the piece is intentionally unresolved, both musically and experientially. Most music ends on the notes that it began on, representing completion, cohesion, and wholeness. Cantor shared with me that Ein milim, and if you have a musically trained ear, you maybe picked up on this, ends on a different note than the one on which it began, leaving the piece purposefully unresolved, incomplete, incohesive, and unwhole, to represent that the composer, those who sing these words, those who hear these words, are very much still in the midst of the turmoil that began on October 7th. This piece is unresolved because the experience in which it's based, too, is unresolved. The Jewish people are deeply steeped in the Jewish experience. Even in this week's Torah portion, Mishpatim, which is a list of laws, the very first set of laws mentioned are about slavery, the experience that the Israelites at this point had mostly known and had most recently come from. From the book of Exodus to this very moment, we respond to our lives and the world based on what we experience. Laws about slavery, connections to Israel, responses to October 7th. These are all born out of lived individual and collective experiences. And while our current experience remains incomplete, we are not without agency or resolve. In a minute, Cantor will teach and lead us in another song, a piece, a prayer interconnected with our current moment. The words come from the book of Isaiah. Lama'an Sion lo echasheh, ulma'an Yerushalayim lo eshkot. For the sake of Zion, I will not be silent, and for the sake of Jerusalem, I will not be still. As opposed to the prayer of Ein milim, reaching out to God in a state of helplessness, these words from Isaiah imbue the reader with agency. For Zion, I will not be silent. For Jerusalem, I will not be still. Miles away from Israel, worried about friends and family, contending with troubling news, with city council resolutions, we still have a choice. Sometimes there are no words, and other times we can choose against silence for what we believe in, and we can choose against stillness for those we love. For Zion, I will not be silent. For Jerusalem, I will not be still. And while the nightmare that began on October 7th is ongoing, unresolved as Cantor Peled's Ein milim musically expressed, we ourselves can stick to our internal resolve. The resolve that has developed over generations and generations of Jewish resilience. Lama'an Sion does conclude on the chord on which it began. We can stick to our resolve as Ohavei Tzion, as lovers of Zion, the resolve we receive from one another when we gather in support of each other and our values, the resolve as a connected chain of tradition from the vision of Isaiah. For Zion, I will not be silent. For Jerusalem, I will not be still. As we began from a place without words, praying to God for the release of the captives, acknowledging that we are still living this crisis, we honor that representation of this experience while also incorporating the agency and resolve expressed in the book of Isaiah into our lives. Please join Cantor as we strengthen each other with our presence, with our song, and with the mantra of Jewish resilience and advocacy, I will not be silent, I will not be still.
Thank you, Rabbi. Indeed. So just last week, we heard the Aser Dibrot. I might add that our B'nai Mitzvah chanted it exquisitely. And if you had heard those words, and if you remember them, you might remember that the last commandments all start with the word lo, which means do not. Do not do this, do not do that. So I want you to reframe your thinking around that word. Lo. Everyone say lo.
Lo.
So tonight, the lo means I will not allow anything to get in my way in order to stand firm, to solidly support Jerusalem, Israel, Zion. I will not be still. No, I will not be still. Lo. Lo echeshe. Lo echeshe. I will not be still. Lo eshkot. I will not be silent. Lo eshkot. Lo eshkot. Lo. Lo. So when you sing the word lo, it's not telling you not to do something. Rather, it's the opposite. It's telling you to stand up. Stand strong. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo eshkot. Lo eshkot. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo echeshe. Lo eshkot. Lo eshkot. Now, what you just learned was the third part of a round. Your job is to stand strong, to use those words to let the world know that you will not be still, you will not be silent, you will hold Israel in your heart, in your mind, in your action. You ready?
למען ציון, לא, 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 לא אכשל. למען ציון, למען ציון, לא, לא, לא אכשל. למען ציון, למען ציון, לא, 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 לא אכשל. למען ציון, למען ציון. Lo, 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 echashem.
למען ציון.
לא, 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 לא אחשב. למען ציון, למען ציון. לא, לא, לא אחשב.
Sake of Zion, I will not be silent, I will not be still for the sake of Jerusalem. Let that be our fervent prayer and hope for each one of us and each one within our community. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat.